In today's video we're talking everything Contax and Zeiss. Stay tuned. Hi guys, Matt here from MrLeica.com. So normally we talk a lot about Leica cameras on this channel. So today I wanted to switch it up a bit and talk about Contax. This isn't going to be a deep dive on specifics, but I will cover some key things like price points and a few basic features. So it's more of an introduction of what to expect from these in the future. And with that said, a special thanks to Richard who sponsored this video. I'll explain more later on in the video. I'm no stranger to Contax. One of my first film cameras was actually the Contax 645, which I bought back in 2012. As the name suggests, this is a 645 medium format film camera with the amazing 80mm f2 Zeiss planar lens, which is an autofocus lens. I only used the 80mm lens on this camera because it was just brilliant for my needs. The shallow depth of field was beautiful for weddings and also for my female portraits. If we now step forward quite a few years, I bought the Contax 2A in 2020-ish, and I must be honest, I still need to use this camera. So let me give you a few specs. So this is a 1950s Contax 2A, and it's very similar to a Kiev 4 camera. I can show you because I've done a video on these already. Here's a Kiev 4, and that's basically a clone of the Contax. So I'm using the Kievs rather than the Contax because I prefer the rangefinder in the Kiev, even though this is a much cheaper camera. They both have the same mount, which means you can use the Zeiss lenses on the cheaper Kiev cameras. See my Kiev 4 video for full information. Now this camera has got an amazing lens. I have covered this lens briefly, but I've not done a full video on it as yet. This is the Carl Zeiss Sonar 50mm f1.5. Look at those aperture blades. What about the shutter sound if we wind it up? Nice. So yeah, this camera dates back to 1950. And like the other two cameras you can see on the table, these are all 35mm film cameras. One big difference between this Contax and those two Contaxes is this is a rangefinder camera. That is a SLR camera, and this is a point and shoot camera. So they're all Contax, they all have Zeiss lenses, which again I'll tell you in a second, but this is a rangefinder. So if you like your rangefinder cameras, such as myself, maybe look at the Contax rangefinder cameras. If we now skip forward to the 90s, this is a 1990 Contax T2 point and shoot camera. Now if you're regular to this channel, you know I don't really own or use point and shoot cameras, so this is going to be a new one on me. This is maybe very popular for people that know the camera, and for anybody else it might just look like a nice shiny looking point and shoot camera. This camera comes with the Carl Zeiss Sonar 38mm f2.8 autofocus lens, and it's regarded as one of the very best point and shoot cameras aimed at the luxury and kind of professional market when it was released. Let's see if I can fire the shutter. Nice. Now I must admit I've never really been interested in point and shoot cameras, but after doing some reading I'm actually quite excited to use this to see what I can do. A full video will come on this camera when I get a chance to use it. And here you can see the Contax T2 next to my Leica 2F. The Contax T2 is 200 grams lighter, and it's the first camera I've ever owned that I can wear on a light string around my neck. The T2 may well become my favourite camera when I'm cycling and running and wanting to carry a camera in my back pocket. And the next camera we have is this one. This is a Contax RX from 1994. Now this is quite a weighty camera, but it feels really kind of luxury. And as you can see from the back, it's got I think what's called a data back on it. I'm not fully up to speed just in this camera, but I'm very excited to use it for maybe two reasons. One reason, the camera has the amazing Zeiss planar 50mm 1.4 lens, and secondly, listen to the shutter sound. That just sounds amazing. That's probably for me one of the nicest shutters I've ever heard. And I like mechanical cameras, but that just sounds something like, I don't know, I sent to someone yesterday, one of the patrons on Zoom, the guns on GoldenEye 64, they're one of those old Nintendo games. Show you my age. So yeah, very excited to use this. This is also obviously a 35mm film camera, but this is an SLR, so you're looking through the viewfinder. It is a manual focus camera. So being a 1994 SLR camera, you could compare it to my Leica R7, also released in 1994. Both of these have got the 50mm lenses on. Contax has got the 1.4, and the Leica's got the 50 f2, because I don't own the 51.4 R lens on the Leicas. So at some point I may need to do a shootout between these two heavyweight cameras and see who is king, both in terms of lenses and also ease of use with the camera body. I think from weights the Contax might feel slightly heavier, and it definitely feels a lot more electronic, just because the amount of features and buttons, it just seems to have like twice as many features as the Leica. I mean, I know I like Leicas for their minimal features, but this is just many features. I guess it's also perhaps similar to maybe something like my Nikon F5, which is very feature packed. See that video if you're a Nikon guy. So yeah, really excited to use this one in particular. I just need to read up on how to use it. I'll have to watch some YouTube videos on the Contax RX. And then in terms of lenses as well, I've got the Zeiss Planar 51.4. I've got a Zeiss Distagon 35 2.8. And then I have the Zeiss Vario Sonar 35 to 70 3.4. Now from my understanding, this is a really well regarded lens and it's a push-pull type design. And in terms of comparing it to Leica, I've actually got the 35 to 70 Leica R lens. So again, now it's like Clash of the Titans, which is going to be better, the Zeiss 35 to 70 or the Leica 35 to 70 R lens. This is amazing, and I've done a video on that. To see that video, I was blown away with the results. So if you shoot Zeiss, let me know in the comments, have you used any of these lenses that I'm talking about, and would you recommend them? And equally, have you used the T2 or the Contax 2A? I'm very excited to try all of these and then feed back to you. One point to mention, the Contax RX is a Contax Yashica mount camera. So these lenses are all Contax Yashica mount. So for that reason, if I want to then play with these lenses on my Leica SL camera, all I need to do is buy a Contax Yashica mount to L adapter. So I might try and do that, and then I can test these lenses on digital to see how they compare to the Leica lenses on digital. So before we finish, a quick quiz. We have 3 Contax cameras. Exclude the value of the lenses on this camera and exclude the value of lens on this camera. How much do these 3 cameras cost? Which is the most expensive and which is the cheapest? For me, I would say this looks the cheapest. Maybe that's the second, maybe, and maybe that's the most expensive because it just looks the most advanced, the most feature packed. Now let me check my notes and we'll see which is actually the most expensive. So in third place, the Contax RX can be picked up for £150 or around $200, sometimes with a lens, often without a lens. In second place, who's it going to be? Second place goes to the Contax 2A, which can be found for less than £200 or around $200 to $300, depending on the condition. And in first place, in terms of the most expensive, is the Contax T2. This is actually the most expensive by a massive margin. These cameras retail second-hand for around £1,000 or $1,100. These cameras became very popular in recent years after some of the celebrities kind of showed them on a TV show, and now everybody wants one. I believe these cameras are particularly popular with the younger generation film shooters. I think many of those seem to go for the point-and-shoot cameras rather than, say, the vintage cameras that I tend to go for. So I'm really excited to see if this lives up to the hype and whether it will compare image quality-wise to, say, the vintage cameras that I use. So with that said, if you want to see reviews of these 3 cameras to come in future weeks and months, hit the subscribe button below and turn on your notifications so not to miss those videos. And I want to say a huge thank you to Richard in the US, who kindly sent me both these amazing cameras together with a bag of film. Richard, thank you so much, and for being a Patreon. And with that said, a massive thanks to all my patrons. Please hit the like button if you enjoyed this video, and see you in the next one.